All right, so back here on the 1978 Toyota pickup. So I've been making some good progress on the tunnel. So I showed last time I got the brace in there, and so that's in place, working well. Jack's all out of the way. Got a bit more tacks on it, so that's nice and strong. I did get another piece of the tunnel in place there through, a couple more Easter eggs, which is fun. So that's going pretty good. I mean, just the regular work there with trying to get the cardboard lined up, just using a whole mess of magnets all over the place to hold this in place while you're trying to scribe the line. This one's kind of tricky, so I gotta meet it up with the floor and get that little bend that's in there, but by the time I get to this side, it's flush, and so that one's going to be pretty weird, because instead of the bend being the entire length, by the time I get over here, it's just going to be running straight vertical in order to meet up with that support brace that I put in. And then I still got the transmission in there, and so the shifter comes through right around in this area, and so I am going to have to cut a hole in it in order for that to meet up. I'm hoping that I can get most of this sort of in place, tacked and everything, and just mark where I need to get that hole cut, and then pull the engine and trans out, and then make the hole where I need it to be. So I'm not sitting there trying to get a hole perfectly lined up as I'm getting the panel in there. So we'll see. The other thing is, so I also added a bunch of litmus marks all over it. So I sort of learned this the hard way. So, instead of, getting that cardboard in there, everything lined up, and then you got just a big old chunk of metal, what I've been doing is adding some marks on some of the key spots. So right in the middle, right where a bend will end up being. And so, this way, after I take that piece of cardboard out of there, scribe the line around the piece of metal, I'll transfer those marks to the metal, and then those marks become sort of my guiding lines for, getting that in place. And that's been working pretty good. So what I ended up doing with this piece here is I got that line in the middle lined up and got some tacks sort of on the flat piece, and then just sort of incrementally bent this down and just tacked and bend and tack and bend and tack and bend, and then get down here to the bottom, sort of pre-bend that back, tack and bend, and that's working pretty good. I was originally sort of nervous about trying to get all those things lined up, but between making the cardboard templates, adding those sort of litmus lines on things, it's actually going not too bad. I say that, honestly, with getting this piece here is probably going to be one of the trickier ones, because, I got this little corner, I got the big arc that's all the way across, and as I mentioned, I got a little bend here, and then, this little hump. I don't want to knock this out. I mean, that's structure here, so I don't want to flatten that out. And then it's got to meet up with the other one, and then you can see where the existing holes were for the seat. And so, I need to make sure to get this vertical piece here sort of away from this enough to where I'll have clearance for the bottom of the seat rails to be able to get inside of here. So, yeah, I got a whole bunch of, sort of weird cuts all over that one. And then this one also, I can't scribe that from the top side in order to know. Let's see if I can get up here. So in order to know where it needs to meet up with the cross brace. So I got to scribe it down here on the bottom. And so, it's definitely better to be able to scribe it on just the same side everywhere. So that way I know that I follow the outside edge of the line. But now I got scribe lines on both sides of it. So this one will be pretty tricky. Get that sucker in place. And then I only got one more to do after that. So this one here hopefully won't be too bad. the gap, like the height distance from this inside edge to here, isn't too bad. So it'll have a little bit of angle on it. But I should be able to get, a piece of cardboard, held up all along that outer edge, along that bottom floor, along that inside, and then just magnet the hell out of it and, scribe it and bend it, and like I did on the other ones. And so, yeah, I mean, this is actually coming along not too bad. I still need to, like I said, I need to cap off the inside of this one, in order to keep the water and gunk and stuff out of there. The way I figure I'll end up doing this is after I get all these pieces in place and tacked in and holding it square, I'll get in there, I'll stomp around, make sure that it's, holding in and, not moving or anything. And then I'll just take all the mounts out. And I figure if I can get this cab off and then slammed on the ground, and then I can tilt it up that way, and then I can be welding vertically. There's just no way I'm going to do that amount of welding over my head. And so if I can get it tilted on its back, which I had done before, I had this tilted on its back previously in order to do a bunch of cleaning on all of that undercoating that's up underneath there. And so I should be able to set it all the way down, get it on its back, and just, weld for hours, which is what that's going to take. I mean, each of them little stitch welds, you can see like the linear footage of all that it's going to be a bunch. And, some of it's not quite perfect. I mean, I'm just holding stuff in place. I got little gaps like this in here. And so I'm going to have little areas where I'm going to have to, get a little bit of hammer and dolly and moving stuff around a little bit. So that's going to be a big old chunk of work in order to get all that welded everywhere. But, I want to make sure that that's welded all the way. I don't want to rely on, seam sealer and undercoating and everything for everything. I will seam seal and undercoat, but I don't want to leave it like this. There's just no way in hell that'll survive. So, yeah, pretty good progress. I'm going to get my magnets and stuff out of that one, get that sucker bent up and burnt in, and like I said, just one more to go. All right, cool. Thanks. See you in the next one.